I bought this really huge lot of boxes and manuals only, mostly for Super Nintendo, but there's some NES ones in there too. This lot popped up on eBay for $150. Now all these boxes and manuals are in really rough shape, but there was one game in there, War Gems. It has the box and manual in there, and I figure if I can get the other boxes looking good enough, they might be good to trade or sell and possibly even break even with the whole lot, meaning I would get the War Gems box and manual for free. And I also might keep the NES games too, because I plan on going for the NES complete in box library after I'm finished with the Super Nintendo library. And the NES boxes aren't as in bad of shape as the Super Nintendo boxes, so they might be worth adding to the collection. I've opened the box, but I haven't looked at everything yet, so let's see the condition of some of these boxes and manuals. Alright, first up is Gradius 3, and you can see it's pretty flat. It has all its little tabs in there, and I might be able to press this one to look pretty decent. We got Daffy Duck, the Marvin missions. This has tape on it, but again it has all 4 of its flaps, and I might be able to clean this up pretty good too after I press it. Earthworm Jim, missing some flaps. There's a tear over here. This one's in really bad shape, but we'll see what we can do with it. Mickey Mania has its flaps, little bit of tape on it. I might be able to clean this one up pretty good too. Mystic Quest has all but one of its flaps, and I don't know, this one's pretty bad. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with this one. Soldiers of Fortune, which we covered not too long ago actually for the SNES quest, it has all its flaps as well, and I think I can get this one looking halfway decent. Castlevania 4, missing 2 flaps, but I believe the manual came with this one too, so might be able to do something with that. Not everybody out there collects minty boxes. Some people just like having the box, even if it's in a little bit rough of shape. Up next we have Batman for NES, missing a flap, but other than that it's not in terrible shape. It's gonna flatten out pretty good. Came with 4 foams for the bottom of NES boxes. Those are always nice to have extras of. Mortal Kombat has all its flaps, but it's taped up, and this tape is gonna be really hard to get off without damaging the box. And I would need to do that in order to flatten it out. So I don't know how well I'll be able to save this one. Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose, same story as Mortal Kombat. You gotta wonder what happened to these boxes, man. They are really, really bad. Pac-Man 2, The New Adventure, same story as the other ones, only this one doesn't have its top 2 flaps. Aladdin, same as Mortal Kombat and Tiny Toons, it's taped off onto one side, but it has all its flaps. So this tape is gonna be the make it or break it, I think. Super Mario All-Stars. There is no hope for this box whatsoever. This is completely destroyed. It's really sad to see. Jungle Book, missing 2 tabs. Super Mario Kart is the same story as Super Mario All-Stars. I don't think there's any saving this one. Dragon Spirit, not so bad, just missing a flap. Astyanax is pretty good for the most part. And Ultima Exodus, and the top of this is really rough. But the rest of the box isn't bad, but we'll see what we can do. Finally, we got some manuals for most of the boxes. We have War of the Gems. Batman, this isn't in bad shape at all. This is probably the best condition item in the whole lot. We have the Mystic Map Quest. We have the Mystic Quest Map, Mystic Quest Manual, Daffy Duck Manual, Mortal Kombat Manual, Earthworm Jim Manual, Castlevania 4 Manual, Aladdin, Jungle Book, Ultima, some random inserts, Super Mario Kart, and Gradius 3. So 150 bucks, what do you think? Was it worth it? Well, you might see me change clothes during this episode because I'm gonna record this until I get rid of all the boxes and manuals to see if it was worth it in the end. But for now, we're gonna start out heat pressing some of the boxes. So let's do it. So War Gems box also came in the lot, and it was actually in the press already when I started this video, but it came out of the press and it's in pretty decent shape. It is missing flaps, so eventually I'll upgrade this, but it's not so bad overall. But the next two games I'm going to start out with in the heat press is Gradius 3 and Castlevania 4, because I think I can do the most with these out of all the other games. So we're going to go ahead and press these two, and I'll show you the condition of these up close before we press them. Alright, here's Castlevania 4. You can see it's pretty flattened out. It's not looking too great. Gradius 3 is probably the best box in the lot, but it does need to be flattened out. Alright, I got the heat press here and it's set to 220 degrees. I'm just gonna do 2 boxes at a time. Make sure they go nice and flat. That's gonna go for about 15 or 16 minutes. Alright, now I'm just gonna flip the boxes around. Alright, we got the first 2 off the press. How do they look? Here's Gradius 3. Not too bad. And here's Castlevania 4. It's still got this line going across here, but it still looks pretty rough, but it is better than it was. Up next we're gonna do Batman. And Mystic Quest. Alright, here's the Batman box, and as soon as these came out, the Gradius 3 box and manual is already sold for 30 bucks. And here's Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Here's all the boxes I was able to save. Minus Castlevania 4, which I already sold. Well, this was going to be its own video, but now it's going to be a SNES Quest video because I already figured out the answer. Yes, the lot was worth buying. I've already sold and traded some of the boxes and I'm already in the green. I sold Castlevania 4 for 30. I sold Mystic Quest for 30 as well. And then I sold Batman for 33. So that put me at $93. And here we are 2 days later and I go to a convention and then I ended up trading 3 more boxes and manuals for a game. And those 3 boxes that I traded were Mortal Kombat, Gradius 3, and Earthworm Jim. I traded those 3 boxes and manuals for a really nice complete in box copy of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So I had the manual for this, but I ended up trading those 3 for this complete in box, and this goes for about $90. So I paid $150, I'm sitting around $180 now. And then I still have all these boxes and manuals to trade or sell. And then I got the box and manual for War Gems. And I also found the cart for War Gems today for 50 bucks. So another 20 and War Gems was pretty much completely free. So I bought the trashiest of trash boxes for 150. I restored them as best as I could and got them back into people's collections. So it was a risky buy with as trashed as they were, but it ended up paying off. Anyways, today we have 5 more games that we'll be adding to the collection. Let's check them out. And the first game up is Harvest Moon. Harvest Moon was developed by Amicus and published by Natsume. It released for the Super Nintendo in 1997. Harvest Moon isn't your typical RPG. You start off the game taking over your grandfather's farm. There isn't anything on it except for a few empty buildings, your house, and some stumps and shrubs. Your job is to build a successful farm from the ground up, and you have 2.5 years to do it. You'll need to clear and plow the land, plant seeds, water them, harvest plants, buy and raise livestock, feed your livestock, and collect product from your livestock. There's a lot to keep track of. Each day you'll do different tasks to raise money. When you harvest plants, you put them in a bin where they are picked up every day for payment. It's the same concept when collecting products from your livestock. There are 4 seasons in the game. Each season you'll be doing different things than the last. For example, in the spring you'll plant tomatoes and turnips, summer is corn and tomatoes, and in the fall and winter months you do other activities for gold like fish or gather fruits and mushrooms. Each day is really short. You hardly have enough time to complete all the tasks you want to do. You have to sleep at the end of each day to regain your stamina. Before you go to sleep, you can write in your journal, which saves the game. The music is good, but it's repetitive and it gets stuck in your head. The controls are good, but you can only have 2 items at a time, and the screen doesn't show you what items you have equipped. So it's easy to make mistakes like chopping down your crops when you meant to water them, or toss $500 worth of seeds when you meant to hoe the land. You have the ability to sprint, which is a huge bonus, especially with the short time limit you are given each day. The game also adds little side quests too, like going to festivals and playing games and trying to find a companion. It's a really addicting game, and you can easily spend hours playing it and not realizing where the time went. I spent 6 hours playing the game before writing this review, and I'm already ready to play more. Harvest Moon is a fun game worth checking out if you're into this style of gameplay. Harvest Moon is game number 211 for the collection, and I found the box and cart for $549 shipped. Then I found the manual for $143 shipped, bringing our total up to $692. And at $692, that brings our total up to $36,913 for the SNES Quest. Up next we have NHL 94. NHL 94 was developed and published by EA Sports and released for the SNES in 1993. For one of the earlier NHL games, NHL 94 is a pretty solid hockey game. It's licensed so you get real teams, there's plenty of options to choose from, and the gameplay is fun. You have a shootout mode and your regular games and seasons. The frame rate is smooth and the visuals look good. The controls are where I have a couple minor complaints. First, the players can be slow to turn around, and you have to hit the B button to switch to the player closest to the puck. It would work a lot better if the player you controlled automatically switched. The difficulty level is just right. I won some games and I lost some. It can be hard to keep possession of the puck sometimes because you're always getting checked. Other than the few minor complaints, NHL 94 is a good hockey game for the system. All the NHL series games we've covered have been good, but I'd stick with one of the later games. If all you have is a copy of NHL 94 though, it's not a bad one to pop in. NHL 94 is game number 212 for the collection, and price charting has it at $34. And at $34, that brings our total up to $36,947 for the Super NES Quest. And the next game up is Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow. Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow was developed by Eurocom and published by Nintendo. It released for the Super NES in 1997. I'm going to start off by saying these are some of the best graphics on the Super Nintendo. Everything looks absolutely amazing and there's a ton of detail. It's amazing they pulled this off with zero slowdown in the game. The story here is an idol goes missing and Donald, or Maui Mallard, goes to investigate. Maui is armed with a gun. It works well, but you have to be a distance away from the enemy for it to be effective. The controls are a bit floaty and take some time getting used to, but it's not game breaking. Once you get the hang of the controls in the game, it's a lot better. But chances are you'll struggle on some of the platforming early on. In the second stage, you'll earn the ability to turn into Cold Shadow. In this form, you get a staff to take out enemies, and you can use it to climb between walls or swing from things. It's a lot of fun. You collect loot throughout the levels. You have to collect enough loot to be able to advance. There is a password system, but it's not free. You have to beat a bonus stage for the password to be displayed. Another thing in the game that takes some time getting used to is the camera. It jumps around a lot while you're moving, and it can be hard to see some lower platforms you need to land on. Besides a few things you need to get used to in the game, Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow is an excellent game. If you're a fan of platformers, pick this game up. Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow is game number 213 for the collection, and it cost me $212 shipped. And at $212, that brings our total up to $37,159 for the SNES Complete in Box Quest. And the next game up is George Foreman's KO Boxing. George Foreman KO Boxing was developed by Beam Software and published by Acclaim. It released for the SNES in 1992. This is a boxing game that lacks options. Starting up the game, you play as George Foreman. You don't get to select any other player. You also don't get to pick any opponents. When boxing, Y is a left punch and A is a right punch. Up and Y is a high left punch, and up and A is a high right punch. Your other moves consist of dodging and blocking by hitting down on the D-pad. As you land punches, you can earn a super punch. A glove will appear at the top left of the screen if one is available. Super punches will do slightly more damage to the opponent, but when they super punch you, it takes away half your health. And it's hard to avoid them because the controls are blocky. If you're punching and go to move left, George gets stuck there and you have to hit the button again to make a move. And why do the players look like this? They look so weird. Is this supposed to be George crying? It looks like a baby's head on a muscular body. There is a password system to get to other fights, but good luck winning one to get it. If you lose any fight, you just start back at the first opponent. It's so annoying. George Foreman KO Boxing is one to avoid. George Foreman's KO Boxing is game number 214 for the collection, and I have $30 in trade for it. And at $30, that brings our total up to $37,189 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. Last but not least is Battle Cars. Battle Cars was developed by Malibu Interactive and published by Namco. It raced into stores in 1993. This is a game that kind of resembles F-Zero visually. Starting off the game, you select from 3 cars. No car is better than the other, so you just choose the one that you think looks the best. After choosing the car, you can pick the color of it. Each race has 2 parts. The first part is racing cross country. Here you'll try to finish the race quickly while destroying cars. Depending on how you do, you'll earn cash. Cash is used to upgrade your vehicle and weapons. There are 3 weapons. Discs, which is like sliding a hockey puck at opponents. Missiles, which chase opponents down, and grenades, which are devastating but not very accurate. After you finish the cross country, you race the boss. Bosses are much more aggressive than the other racers. Once you beat the boss, you move on to the next track. When turning in races, you have 3 options. You can do a slow, medium, or fast turn by using a combination of the D-pad and L and R buttons. The graphics in the game are actually pretty decent, as well as the frame rate. The music is decent rock music as well. The controls are really jerky. They're not terrible by themselves, but some of the track setups are ridiculous, causing you to bounce all over the place. Despite that, Battle Cars is a unique racing game, and it's not a bad one to try out. There are far worse racing games you could choose. Battle Cars is game number 215 for the collection, and I got it for $40 at a local game store. And at $40, that brings our total up to $37,229 for the Super Nintendo Complete in Box Quest. Let's get these games on the shelf. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe. I'm completing the entire Super Nintendo library, complete in box, right here on this show. Also make sure to leave a thumbs up for Harvest Moon. Until next time, I'm Gamer Wayne, and thanks for watching.